What's a story you've always wanted to share here, but no one ever asked the right question? I woke up in the middle of the night to see a guy getting arrested in my backyard. I had an exam the next morning, so I closed my window and went back to sleep. A friend threw a small eraser at me and for some reason I opened my mouth, and it went down my throat, and I coughed it up. In 6th grade we had a competition to see who could draw the best picture of an apple. I drew a picture of grapes and got 3rd place. I can't imagine how badly the 4th place kid drew that apple for grapes to be a better option. I was 16 years old and on a trip to Spain with a professor and some classmates. We were at a popular cathedral and I saw this dude who looked exactly how I would picture Jesus. Of course I leaned to my friends and tell them about it. A few minutes go by and I forgot about him, but then he snuck up to me, whispers I heard the Jesus thing, and slips me a business card that just says Jesus on it. I quit a bank job once by cleaning out my office the night before. I left the keys on the desk. I faxed my resignation to corporate the next day and started the new job at 8 AM. It was a pretty crappy job and I stayed there too long, so it was fun making a bit of a splash as I left. I quit a job similarly, closed the place down, tacked my key to the corkboard, and added my name to list of things we were out of. One night a couple of years ago, I was woken up by police sirens going past my house. Then it happened again a few minutes later. Then again, but with more police cars. Then again, and again. Turns out multiple police cars were chasing a single car around the block. The best part is, at no point did any of the police think to turn around and go the other way round the block to intercept the car from the opposite direction. This went on for 2 hours. I was one time opening a can of SpaghettiOs with a can opener, and for the life of me it wouldn't open, so I flipped it upside down to try the other side, and once I finished going around the top of the can with the opener the bottom burst out, and all of my SpaghettiOs were on the ground. Very sad day. Oh, SpaghettiOs. When I was in junior high, I ate a banana for breakfast and there was no garbage can around, so I left the peel in my jacket pocket. No big deal, except I forgot about it, and then I forgot about my coat, and it stayed in class over a 3-day weekend. When we came back the teacher said, "Hey, someone left their coat here, whose is it?" Now, I remembered what was in the pocket probably all rotted and slimy now, so I stayed quiet. The teacher starts looking for some identifying information and reaches into the pocket. The look on his face. Poor guy. I'm a guy who had a long ponytail back in high school, and occasionally I'd get called mom by waitresses who only saw the back of my head, but otherwise I looked like a regular Porky nerdling. Except this one time at school, a random girl looked straight at me and asked if I was a boy or a girl. I was a bit shocked and stuttered for way too long, but she just continued to stand there and patiently wait for an answer. I finally composed myself well enough to look her in the face and saw that her pupils were the size of dinner plates. This was a chance to be a bit cheeky, so I said, "I'm a girl." She responds, "Great. I can talk to you about my girl problems," and proceeds to talk for 30 minutes about people I've never met. Recently I gained a lot of faith in humanity. I'm driving home from a friend's house and notice someone ahead stopped in the middle of an intersection, hazards on. I see he's high school age and obviously stressed out, not sure what to do. So I drive through the intersection and pull into a parking lot to jog over and help. I mean, I've had this happen and it sucks. Especially when no one helps you. Anyway, by the time I get back to his car he's pushed it all of about 10 feet. To my shock, another 2 people show up at the exact same time, and we all start helping this guy get his car into a parking lot, so he could call his parents. Felt super awesome that 3 people came to this guy's help in less than 5 minutes. I grew up in the countryside, in the middle of nowhere. We were playing with 2 other friends on a frozen lake once, and all of a sudden it cracked. One of my friend went under the water and panicked, moving under the layers of ice. I had to tear apart ice parts and punching through it to get him, falling sometimes in the water with him. We managed to get out with the help of third friend. The third one probably saved us from the cold shock, and helped us walking a few kilometers until he found someone to help the 3 of us. So basically, a savior's chain like. One time when I was a kid, we were having a school assembly, and our class was presenting some artwork we made. It was my job to introduce the artwork, and all I had to do was say one sentence. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but something along the lines of, "This week our class drew pictures of, insert book characters here." Apparently, this was far too difficult for me, so when my teacher handed me the microphone, I froze and stared straight into the audience like a deer in headlights. Seeing I was struggling, my teacher leaned down next to me and asked me, "What are our pictures?" to try and prompt me to remember what I was supposed to say. But no. This wasn't enough for my dumb apparently, because I thought it was my line and said, way too confidently, into the microphone, "What are our pictures?" And yes, I think about this when I can't sleep. I once ordered 2 plastic earring holders off of a Chinese seller on eBay. They were like $2 each, plus a few bucks of shipping, no big deal. A couple weeks later, they were delivered. There was a square-shaped package that held my holders, packed with styrofoam, all fine and dandy, and like 8 other packages that came with it, all with the same shipping information, from the same person/company. I didn't know what to do with them. I certainly didn't order them, but curiosity got the best of me, so I opened them. Turned out to be about 15 burlap pillow covers with various pictures on them: skulls, flowers, Marilyn Monroe, Rolling Stones lips, Totoro, deer, a lot of variety, a couple duplicates. I was like, WTF are these? I wasn't sure what to do with them, thought maybe I'd just sit on them for a few days before I went about contacting the seller and possibly shipping them back. And then 2 days later, more packages arrive. This time around, there are 5 or 6 packages of pillow covers, as well as 2 random costume masks. Now I'm WTFing pretty hard. I've got like 30 pillow covers, thinking like, did they mess up an order? Am I receiving all these pillow covers someone else ordered? Except they don't even sell these on their eBay. WTF is going on? I contact the seller, send them pictures. They're confused as hell too and don't have any idea where they came from, but they never ask me to send them back. I ended up selling them on Facebook for $5 each. Made like $130. I had something similar happening to me. I didn't even order anything, got a package with a huge kitty sticker, tea bags and a headlamp in it. I was so confused and still am. I used to occasionally drive through a pretty empty stretch of desert for work. It was about 3 hours or so of near emptiness and no gas stations. I'd probably meet 2, maybe 3 cars over the course of my drive. The road passed through a couple of very tiny and mostly empty towns, but was generally far from anywhere. On one trip, I was making my way along the old Tulane road and was just cresting a hill when I saw a lone figure at the bottom, walking slowly up the hill along the side of the road. Being a desert, there was a long stretch of straight road before me and I had a spell to observe the figure as I drew closer. The person seemed to be wearing a white robe and was hunched over. It quickly became obvious that the figure was carrying something on its back. At the same time, I noticed a flash in my rearview mirror. Glancing up, I saw a car come roaring over the hill behind me. It was a large Cadillac and it quickly dashed into the opposite lane and shot past me down the hill. As I watched the car fly down the hill, I realized that the figure at the bottom was dragging a long piece of wood behind them, with a good length of it resting on their shoulder. It looked like a large wooden cross. The car finally reached the figure and came to a screeching halt in the middle of the road, while I continued to gradually close the gap between us. At that point the figure turned, revealing a short beard, and hefted the wooden cross off the ground and onto his back. He bounded as quickly across the road as one could with a cross, long brown hair trailing in the breeze, and reached the car just as the trunk lid popped open. The man attempted to put the cross into the trunk, but it wouldn't fit. Giving up, he left the trunk lid open and jumped into the passenger seat. The car screeched off, slid into the dirt, spun around, and bounced back onto the pavement in a cloud of dust. As the dust settled, the car lurched forward and raced back up the hill as if on a mission. As it passed my car I noticed the driver, sporting shiny aviators, steering coolly with one hand while leaning back in the seat. The passenger had his head stuck out the window, staring at me as the car passed and drove off into the distance. They quickly reached the top of the hill and dropped out of sight as the cross hung out of the trunk, bouncing precariously against the bumper. I stared into the mirror for a moment, half expecting them to reappear, before I realized I wasn't paying attention and resumed driving. I've seen a lot of odd stuff in the desert, but that was one of the strangest. Time traveler who put Jesus in the wrong place? Then had to pick him up and take him back?